It has never been more important to know how to work with video, especially now that a lot of us are working from home in a virtual environment. How do you get your message across through a camera? Well, I'm very delighted today to share some of my favorite tips and tricks with you. I've been making videos for many years, I think thousands of segments by now. So today, first of all, I'm going to share some practical tips on how to make videos with your phone or your webcam. And secondly, I'm going to give you some strategic advice. How do you save time and work efficiently? Let's dive in. So way back in the day, I filmed with big cameras. My background is in TV, but I ditched the big camera for my much smaller and handier smartphone or webcam. So that's what I'm going to focus on today, because pretty much, everything I learned when I was in TV, all the basic principles still apply to when you film with your webcam or your phone. So let's dive into it. The very first check I always do is an audio check. Listen to the surroundings, to the environment. Is there something you can do about it? Perhaps turn off that TV, turn off that radio, move to a different room. Is there anything you can do to impact the audio? It is so important if you want to come across well and make sure that you make a good connection with someone else on the other side of the screen. Make sure they can hear you. This sounds really basic, but this happens so often that there's an echo, a reverb of some kind, and it makes it very difficult to understand what you're saying. So this is my very first tip. Listen to your surroundings. What room are you in? Is there something you can turn off to cancel any background noise, or are you in a room with curtains? Is there carpet on the floor? So can the audio bounce back, or is it absorbed by the environment? That is really important. So that's the first check. Secondly is light. As you can tell, good light can really impact how you come across. So if you are doing a simple video conference and you want to make sure that you have a connection with someone else, just make sure that you face the window, the light, instead of turning your back towards the light. This, again, is super simple. Everything I'm telling you today, it is not rocket science, but this can really change the way of how you connect with someone else in a virtual environment. And then thirdly, there's framing, and that's pretty much how you put yourself in the screen. So how you want to see this is your free canvas, your creative canvas, and you can pretty much put yourself in the screen any way you want to. So what is the good way, the right distance? First of all, I usually say try to sit a bit closer than you might find comfortable. So to a lot of us, this would probably be a comfortable distance, pretty far away from the camera, which I understand, because talking to a camera is not a natural thing. But if you stand up just a bit closer, do you see what a big difference this makes, especially if you want your message to come across well? This can really help you make a good connection, is standing a bit closer to the camera. If you work with a phone, you can turn on the grid. This works on pretty much any phone. And these lines can really help you with where to position yourself on the screen. So the basic rule is you don't want to be standing right in the middle. The most important thing on the screen, which in this case is you want to put on one of the lines. So on this line or on this line. It's called the rule of thirds. It's not something you always have to apply, but this is a really good, very basic rule when you're first starting out with filming and you're not quite sure where to put yourself in this canvas. All right, so those are my practical tips, but I really want to give you one final practical tip, and that is to look into the camera lens. If I look at myself, I'm filming with my phone now, and if I look at myself, this is what it looks like. I look right past the camera, but if I look into the camera lens, this is what it looks like. A simple little thing you can do is just create a little arrow out of a Post-it note and put that right next to the camera to remind yourself to make eye contact. And those were the checks: audio, light, camera. I have for you a smartphone video checklist, which you can print out and put next to your phone or your webcam whenever you're about to shoot your very first video. So feel free to download it. All right, now let's move on to editing or spicing up your video. I have worked with a ton of different software apps, so let's take a look at some of my favorites. We will start off with live streaming. So if you are going to live stream for the first time, I can really recommend to work with OBS. It is free open source software. It is great to work with pretty much any live streaming platform. So you install it on your computer, and the great thing about OBS is you can add your own logo, you can add your own lower thirds, your own graphics, your website, or any slides you might have. So it is awesome to work with, especially in a virtual working environment. And if you're working with your phone and you want to edit your video, I can really recommend two apps. First of all, the app KineMaster. This app works on iPhone and Android, and it is an amazing app to create some layers so you can add pictures and emojis or put videos straight over your talking face so people can really see what you are talking about. KineMaster is a paid app. If you're looking for a free app, definitely check InShot. It is also an app for iPhone and Android, which you can add pictures, add text, and really spice up your video a little bit. For iPhone users, I can really recommend the app iMovie because it is free and it lets you do pretty much all of the things I just described. Now let's talk about captions, because this is always a big chapter. People always have a lot of questions on how to caption your video. So there are a few tools and apps that I use. First of all, there's the tool Splashio, which is an amazing tool to automatically caption your videos and add banners. Secondly, there are apps. So for Android, there's AutoCap, and for iPhone, there is Mixed Captions. These apps both automatically caption your video. So what that means is you upload your video into the app, select a language, and the app transcribes the audio and then automatically captions your video for you. Quite amazing. Okay, so those are a few of my favorite tools and apps of the moment. I quickly want to mention one free editing software, which is DaVinci Resolve. It is an amazing software, completely free. So if you're working on a laptop or desktop, that could be a really interesting one to look into. All right, let's move on to the next step, and that is saving time. Saving time starts before you grab your camera and start filming. You can save a ton of time if you first start off with two things: a video plan and a shot list. Those are the two things I use for every video that I make. So how does this work? First of all, the video plan. For every video I make, I first think about three things: people, platform, purpose. These are my 3 Ps. People, who is your ideal viewer? So who do you really want to reach with this video? What are they thinking about? What is going on in their world? And are there any topics that would work well in video? Secondly, platform. Once you know who your ideal viewer is, you probably know where to reach them. So perhaps it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. And based on the first 2 Ps, you can come up with a format for your video. So is the video going to be square or vertical, landscape? Are there going to be captions? All these things your viewer and the platform are going to have to determine. And the third P is really important. It's purpose. What is the goal of the video? What do you want your viewer to do or think or feel once they have watched your video? This is really important to think about. So once you've determined these 3 P's, you will put them together in a very simple video plan. Now, I like to draw things out. So I usually divide it up in little blocks. I determine the length of the video. So perhaps it's going to be 1.5 minutes or 2 videos. And maybe you have 3 tips. So then you decide how long each tip is going to be. You come up with the start, you come up with the end. But really important side note, you don't want to work out a word-by-word script. Why not? Because we do not talk the way we write. So once you write it down and then try to read it as if you're speaking in a natural way, usually it doesn't work. More on that in tip 5, but first let's move on to the shot list. Say you're going to an event. You could go there and then just film everything you see and come back with 1.5 hours of footage, which you'll then have to bring back to 2 minutes. That is really the most difficult thing ever. What you want to do instead is create a shot list beforehand. A quick little list of maybe 10, 12 different shots that you really have to film when you're there. And once you're at the event, all you have to do is look at your checklist, tick, 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 and you're done. And you can enjoy the event. All right, now let's move on to tip number 4. Knowing what works well in video. This is so important. If you're going to make a video, you need to understand what video is, right? So let's dive into the word video. I don't know if you've had Latin in school. Well, I certainly didn't, but I looked it up online. Thank goodness for Google and Wikipedia. And the word video really means I see, seeing. And that is really what video should be about. It should be visual. So the first question you should ask yourself before you grab your camera is, what am I going to show people? Is there anything that I can hold in my hands while I'm showing something, I'm talking about something? Are there any images that can appear, any videos, any graphics that can appear on the screen? As you probably have seen during this video, I'm trying to make it very visual. And that's because when you make something visual, you trigger people's brains, trigger their minds. They're reading something while they're listening, while they're watching you. And that is really important. So think about that and put those things in your shot list and in your video plan as well. And that brings me to point number 5, which is make things personal. Ooh, being personal, that can be a little tricky if you're making a business video or you have a business video conference, right? Well, I don't mean talking about where you live or showing people how many kids you have. What I'm trying to say here is video is one of the most personal ways to communicate online. You can look people straight in the eye. You can see what they mean by their body language, by how they express themselves. So this is really important. Look at how you express yourself through video as well. Are you using your face? Are you leaning in when you're trying to make a point? What does your voice do? What is your tone of voice? Does it match the audience? My number 1 tip I can give you to become a little bit more personal, a little bit more natural is this. Think of who you're talking to. Have that person in mind. And don't just think of an audience, right? So you might think, well, I'm talking to CEOs in the United States. That's a huge audience, and that still does not make it very personal. So think of a CEO you know in real life and talk to that person. That will change the way you stand in front of the camera. It will change your tone of voice. Perhaps you'll have a little bit more expression. Maybe you'll even smile. And those are things that are crucial in getting your message across when you're talking to a camera. All right. Those were my 5 tips and tricks. I really hoped this video has helped you in getting some basics, a fundament in what works in video and what doesn't. I know these can be pretty challenging times. Maybe for the first time you find yourself in a virtual video conference, or you're thinking about, well, perhaps I should be making more videos. And what I would like to say is it has never been simpler. It has never been more accessible than now. You can simply use your phone, your webcam. There is a ton of apps and software out there that can really help you get your message across in this virtual environment. So all the things I shared with you today, from my smartphone video check sheet to my gear sheet, you can download for free and feel free to use it. I hope it really helps you get your message across through video. I'll see you online in a video. Bye.